Very few people I have ever run across that do not like chili. Chili is fun to eat, it's fun to make, and everybody's got their own recipe, so I'm going to share mine. Remember, as always, recipes are just a suggestion. You can add or subtract anything you want to, okay? So with that in mind, today we're going to make our chicken a little healthier. We're going to make it with ground chicken. And I know a lot of you out there are going, oh, God, no, it's got to be beef. But trust me, this recipe, you won't be able to tell that it's ground chicken, and neither will anybody else that you serve it to, all right? So get your pen and paper out, and let's write down the ingredients. We're going to start with a pound of ground chicken. You can use the ground beef if you want to for this recipe. It'll come out the same. I'm also going to use half a large yellow onion, 2 cloves of garlic, some diced tomatoes with green chilies. I've got 2 different kinds right there. Some tomato sauce, beef broth. I'm using about 1/4 cup, and then a tablespoon and a half of chili powder. Also a tablespoon and a half of ground cumin, a teaspoon rather, of paprika, unsweetened cocoa powder. Why do people do it with unsweetened cocoa powder? It gives it an earthy taste, kind of an umami flavor, but you don't want to put too much, because you don't want to turn this into, as somebody called it earlier before we started production, ooh, chocolate chili, ooh, what a mess. Remember Messy Marvin? For those of you that do, you're old, like me. Wow, okay. So as far, I gotta stop talking about old age, wow. As far as the cocoa powder, I'm only using a teaspoon, all right? And I'm using a teaspoon of granulated sugar just to help kick things up. Now, I suggest you use coriander. In my case, I prefer cilantro. I know they're the same thing to some people, but I use fresh cilantro. And I just happen to have some left over in a pico de gallo that I made. And all of those ingredients are going to go well into this because, as you know, my pico de gallo has tomatoes and onions and garlic and jalapeno peppers, and it's just delicious. So we're going to use some of that. Also, I'm using a can of light green beans and a can of dark, no, not green beans. Did I just say green beans? All right, back up. I'm using a can of light kidney beans and a can of dark kidney beans. Cool beans. Okay, got it all together. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chop up our onion, our garlic, and our extra jalapeno that I decided to put in. I'll get to this in a minute. If you haven't seen one of these are really cool. And no, it is not a spyglass, okay? Your kids might think it is. It's just a strange looking thing that I got one day as a pre-present for some of the things I've been buying. So here we go. Let's dice up this onion, all right? Now, the recipe that I originally found said to chop the onions up finely. I'm not going to do that so much. I'm going to leave them with a little bit of texture and chunk, and that way when you bite into them in the chili, you know you've got some onion, which is also a good flavor. The time that I chop the onions real fine is afterwards, when I put the cheese and the onion on top. You hit this thing, put the garlic in there, ready? And you just roll it. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that cool? You just take that and it's all done. Because usually my fingers get all sticky. All right, let's cut off the end, and we're going to be ready to go. We're going to finely mince this, all right, even though you really don't need to. There we go. Let's cut this sucker up. For making this chili recipe, if you have a cast iron pan, use it, okay? Your second choice should be a non-stick skillet, but if you really want it to taste good, a well-seasoned cast iron pan is your best friend. It just adds something to the flavor, you know? I think it adds iron to your diet too, if you have iron poor blood. Yeah. Okay, we're going to cut now and we're going to head to the stove. We're going to put about half a tablespoon of oil in there. I'm using olive oil. Okay, and we're going to put the onions, the garlic, and another jalapeno pepper in there. And we're going to let them become very, very fragrant. Okay, hang on. Here we go. Some people say you should cook the items separately. I like to just put them in all at the same time, mainly because I don't notice a massive difference in taste. I'm getting the aromatics here. I'm going to make it so that the onions are a little bit translucent. I don't want them to be browned, but maybe about 3 minutes to 4 minutes in the pan. Are you seeing they're getting just a little bit translucent? They're ready to go. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put that into the crock pot. All right, let's jazz it up with a little bit more oil, and then we're going to add our ground chicken. If you're wondering what that thing is underneath the pan here that I have, that prevents the glass top from getting scratched. It also diffuses or spreads out more evenly the heat, which actually is kind of redundant because the cast iron pan does that really well on its own. But this way I'm protecting the stove, and I also have a handle that isn't screaming hot if I forget to use my, pot holder. And I can turn the thing a little bit. Okay. It's time to chop this up. If you want to have big chunks, leave them big. If you like it like taco meat, you can feel free to do that too. Personally, I like to have a few big chunks in there when I eat my chili. I think it's nice to know that you're getting some meat. Although some of you out there are going, chicken ain't meat, that ain't for chili. Yes, it is. Trust me. Make it. If you don't believe me, make it and try it. And I want to hear what you have to think in the comments, especially if you made it and you say, oh my God, you were right. It's nice to know. Cornbread goes really great with this. And if you make cornbread with this, you can always use the leftovers tomorrow for my breakfast casserole recipe. Self-promotion, always wonderful. Let me get my stuff off the stove, and we're going to put this right in there. All right, look at that. That chicken looks wonderful. Yeah. Now, if you want, you can always deglaze the pan. Not that there's much to do with chicken, but you can deglaze it with a little bit of wine. That's another alternative that you can do. We're putting this in the crock pot and getting ready. We're going to stir in all of our wonderful spices. Okay, we put them in first, so that way when we put the juices in, we'll be able to stir them around better. There goes the tomato sauce. That's just an 8-ounce can. All right, this is diced tomatoes with green chilies. And this one is chunkier. I like that. Ooh, look at that. All right, also in with the beef broth. And today, I'm going to have my pico de gallo. I'm going to put a boatload of it in there, mainly because I've had it for a couple of days, and it's time now to use it up. And I don't want it to go bad. All right, we're going to stir all that up. Put a little fresh ground pepper in. All right. We're going to turn it on low. We're going to let it sit for 5 to 6 hours. And after that, we're going to stir in the beans. We're going to let them heat up for a couple of minutes. They don't have to cook long because these are already out of the can. If you're using dry beans, naturally you want to throw them in now. And then when you take it off, it's time to figure out your favorite topping. Do me a favor, please subscribe if you like this content. Make all the comments you want, positive, negative. It's your place to do it. And I'm also interested in learning what people like on their chili. Mine is cheese and onion, and we'll be back in 6 hours through the magic of video editing, and we'll show you the finished product.
6 hours later.
And through the magic of video editing, it's 6 hours later. You got to see this wonderful chili that we have made. Go ahead and take a look at that. Oh my goodness, isn't that delicious? And you know, when you look at it, you can't tell that that's not beef, now can you? And here we did a beautiful bowl presentation. Now, I like to top mine with onions and cheddar cheese. It's already starting to melt. And I also like a little bit of green onion on top because it gives it some flavor. But also it gives it some look, you know, nice different color. Blah, 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 blah. Nice different color. Okay. And I'm going to choose to have mine with a French baguette, okay? You can have it with crackers or whatever you want to do. Some people go ahead and have sour cream or all kinds of stuff, hot sauce, whatever you want. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Please leave some comments. Please subscribe. Please. Okay. Hopefully we're doing right. And if you like the presentation, give it a like. As always, thanks for watching.